WN, and never thought we would have this conversation. Certainly not in the beginning with Ed Frankovic or with any of my long-standing Capitals friends. No guy has loved the Capitals longer or has trekked them as far and as wide and as deep in the history, maybe this side of Ron Weber and Smokin' Al Koken, than this guy who is still a frequent visitor to the Capitals press corps, even though he is all things Newsday and resides up on Long Island. We welcome Ted Starkey back, Caps historian and Caps fan. What else could I tell people about your Capsdom? But certainly you've waited as long as anyone to drink from Lord Stanley's chalice, Ted Starkey.
Yeah, it's been it's kind of an interesting ride this week. You know, it's the series looks like you can get away from them, but I guess you could say I'm the historian because I was at the 1990 Wales Conference Final, the 1998 Eastern Conference Final, and hopefully I'll be at the 2018 Eastern Conference Final. So it'll be interesting to see how Washington does.
Well, Ted, I harken back to, I always think of LaFontaine, Triple OT, Islanders, me and Phil Jackman coming back home at 3 o'clock in the morning on Easter morning. And, I go back that far, and I think for anyone that has history with this, right? I mean, there are people at these games, these millennial types that, like my kid who's 33, who don't necessarily have every scar, going back to Dennis Maruk, right? And the Rod Langway trade and all of that stuff. But even in the modern era, if all you know is Ovechkin, you still have this level of pain that is felt throughout the franchise. And, even Trotz mentioned it after Game 5, that if this thing wound up back for Game 7 in D.C. on Wednesday night, how would the crowd react? Look, man, I don't think if they go quietly in 5 here to Tampa, which is certainly possible. I mean, this is a very good team they're playing. It will not be all is lost, but the Kuznetsov moment and beating the Penguins, while not scaling, Lord Stanley's goblet in any way, it certainly feels like it's sitting there over the next couple of weeks. All that aside, Burakovsky, Backstrom injuries, the hand situation for where we are with Backstrom, where we were with Grubauer as goalie the last time you and I got together 2.5, 3 weeks ago, right? To where we are at this point. It certainly has not been without a lot of drama so far, and I don't know where the road's going to go. I know it's going to be sunny in Tampa, and for that I am thankful for Saturday and Sunday somewhere near a pool this weekend, that I've been saving up for because I didn't go to Columbus. I didn't go to Pittsburgh. Last year I went to Toronto. I went to Pittsburgh. I went to Philadelphia. I went to New York. I saw him lose Game 7 at the Garden a few years. So, but I've saved to me, the playoffs sort of kind of begins this weekend. For a lot of people, this is where you're allowed to believe they can win the Stanley Cup, right?
Yep, and I think the interesting thing is the way they won the series too, because they played between the first 3 periods of Game 4 and the first 2 of Game 5. They were not very good. They got a couple early goals in Game 4, and then or Game 5, excuse me, and then they came back in the third period with a nice finish. The Kuznetsov goal, and then they won it with the Verana goal. And then in Game 6 they were tremendous. They basically, without Backstrom, without Wilson, they played the game they had to play. They had to play defensively, not allow a lot of shots, and that's exactly what they did. They played that for 60 minutes. I mean, the Penguins' one goal was a deflection, kind of a bit of a fluky goal. But, by and large, they kept the Penguins away from Holtby. And, in the third period at one point, the Penguins had one shot on goal, and they had to score a goal to basically extend their season. So, the Capitals were playing with a lot of poise. They were playing with a lot of confidence, which is, obviously something we haven't seen from Capitals teams in the past.
Well, poise and confidence are all, earned once you score the winning goal. And there really was something about Wilson out, Burakovsky out, Backstrom out. Now, and the winning goal was Kuznetsov, not Ovechkin, but wouldn't have happened without Ovechkin. Your stars need to do this, right? And we've been waiting on whether Kuznetsov is a real guy or just a guy that sort of flashes it sometimes. We know Ovechkin's a monster in the regular season, has not yet played to this point until, Friday when this thing kicks off in Tampa, where, Ed and I will be on the scene, you'll be on the scene, we're all circling this thing. But I'm quietly confident here. You know what I mean? I really think that they're playing pretty good hockey, and the things that always seem to go wrong, where the stars disappear or the stars get injured or the goaltender is wrong or dumb luck happens in some overtime or triple overtime, as far back as I go, there is a little mojo change here. I mean, I would trust that if they come back 1-1 on Tuesday night, the phone booth will be a mess down there, for a game 3. But if they come back 0-2, it becomes the woe is me thing all over again, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that was interesting about that series, I know we touched on it the last time I was on. The difference with this year's playoff, too, is I don't think you had the pressure on them. Last 2 years when they played Pittsburgh, there was a lot of pressure on them as the President's Trophy winner. And I think even the last game of the series, I think that, it seemed like even though the Capitals were ahead, it seemed like the pressure was still on the Penguins. They were in front of the home fans. They were getting on them when they weren't doing a whole lot. It seemed like, with Backstrom out, I think a lot of people thought the shoe was going to, the other shoe was going to drop and the Penguins were going to force it to 7 and, back to game 7. And I think, they kind of enjoyed not having all the pressure on them this time around. And they won't have the pressure against Tampa either. I mean, Tampa was the best team in the East. They had a terrific first half of the season. They were probably a little bit, not quite as potent in the second half, but they were still very good. They had Stamkos and Kucherov really drove that first half. But, they have a lot of speed. They also have a lot of familiar defensemen to Caps playoffs tormentors because they have, Girardi and McDonough from the Rangers. So they know how to play the Caps, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it was a long bus ride home after that one up at the Garden. I mean, that was a night I really had my heart broken because everything about that was sort of sliced up nice, and Game 6 was won. Then they go to over. It just so many scars, as we would say, for Tampa. You would agree they've been the better team? I mean, sort of people around here that are just coming to the party and checking this out, they may look like imposters in those jerseys because it is an original 6 sweater and whatnot, but they built a hell of a thing down there in Tampa. I certainly better than the baseball team is built, and to some degree better than the football team's built down there, over the course of time, where that's a little bit of a hockey community that people go to sleep on in Tampa, because when they get off the plane on Friday, it is going to be 84 and sunny, and you're not thinking hockey right out of the gate. But that's been the one expansion sort of place where they've really taken to the community before Nashville had it going on. I mean, Winnipeg and these other outliers, we see that. But in other places like Atlanta, it just absolutely has failed. In Columbus, it's just sort of taken forever. In Arizona, it might never work. But Tampa, more so than Florida, more so than a lot of these other places, they're a real franchise down there.
Yep, and they built the right way. I mean, this is going to be their third trip to the Eastern Finals in 4 years. And you look at the roster, and a lot of the guys came up. They played, John Cooper used to coach in Syracuse for their AHL team. Came up, has done really successfully, and a lot of the players he had down in Syracuse have come up to Tampa and succeeded. This year they added, like I mentioned, a couple of guys from the Rangers, to try to bolster their defense. But their key is, Kucherov, Stamkos. They're going to. Vasilevsky has been really good in net for them. Obviously, that might be the key matchup between him and Holtby, because obviously, Bobrovsky in the first round and Murray in the second round were both not bad, but Holtby was definitely better. But, they're a homegrown team. They're relatively healthy. They've only lost 2 games in the first 2 rounds. They lost 1 game to New Jersey and 1 game to Boston. But otherwise, they've looked really good.
He is Caps historian Ted Starkey. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Ted Starkey. He's the internet news manager for Newsday on Long Island, but also the author of Chasing the Dream, Life in the AHL, as well as Red Rising and Transition Game on the Washington Capitals. He is a true Caps historian and trying to put all this into perspective. I don't know about your relative nerddom in your real life, as well as having friends that live outside of the hockey bubble. I think most of us do have that, unless we're Canadian, where everyone's into hockey. It is fascinating that right around this time, guys like you and I will feel those people that look at us and say, why do you like hockey? Why do you like the Capitals? Why do you care about hockey? It's an outlier sport. It's a niche thing. Those of us that are into it tend to be really into it. Those of us that are not, I guess it's sort of the same as those who read J.K. Rowling books and are into Harry Potter or Disney or whatever you're into. But on the hockey side, this is the time where Washington will become involved. Some people in Baltimore that are, closet sports fans that sort of come out a little bit at this point, and they start to watch hockey. And maybe they've been watching basketball and it moves at a different pace. And I'll tell you this, Ted, in the modern era, I have now this week watched games on my wife's iPhone, her iPad, my laptop. You know, we did some traveling over the weekend and snuck out of town. And watching it in all these formats. The one thing about it is watching a hockey game on an iPad in an airport is better than anything that existed in the era of Pat LaFontaine, from following the puck, you know, liking the game, re-engaging with the game. And as much as I talk to the really brilliant people around here like Marty Conway and other people about the business of sports and where that is for the Orioles and the Ravens, and, you know, the Orioles look like the Expos right now. The Ravens have had their troubles. This is the Caps' chance to grow their brand, right? And this is the Caps' chance to suck someone new in. And this is the time where all the haters in your world and the misunderstanders in my world, that if they go on this carpet ride and win this thing in 5 or 6 games and people start buying in and then they have to go to Winnipeg or Nashville or wherever, Vegas, wherever it would be, that this is where hockey can win here locally. Can you give a little outside-the-box thought on your own mind about how this works for people to become hockey, because that's where we are right now. We love it, and this is the time we're screaming about it in our world, in our Facebook and other world, that other people might actually put a game on this week and say, what is it about this hockey thing that would suck me in? I find it still to be the most compelling thing, Ted. You know, I really do. Like, when you start to watch it, you can follow it very, very quickly and easily, like American Idol. You're allowed to jump into the soap opera right now, right?
Yep, and you know, the interesting thing about Washington sports is obviously, you know, the last team to go to a conference final in D.C. was Capitals back in 1998. You know, the Redskins will always be the king of the town, no matter how bad they are or how dysfunctional they are. But, you know, between the Capitals, Nationals, and Wizards, there's always seemingly been kind of a battle for number 2. You know, about before Ovechkin arrived on the scene, the Capitals were probably the 4th team in town. You know, the Nationals were
maybe the 5th. Georgetown was there, dude, right? I mean, literally, right?
Exactly. And, you know, they were kind of an afterthought. You know, Ovechkin kind of captured some of the mainstream fans. But, you know, they gave the reputation, you know, for the last 10 years, they just couldn't get out of the second round, you know. But now, you know, this is the first team to do it. If they go to the finals, again, and they'll be the first team since the Capitals in 1998 to make a championship in the 4 major sports. So, you know, they have a real chance to become, you know, kind of mainstream. I remember I lived out in Denver for a period when, you know, the Avalanche, they arrived from Quebec and they won the Stanley Cup in their first year there, and they were easily the second team in town to the Broncos. And you can see that for the Capitals. If they can make it to the finals or, you know, possibly win the finals, you know, they have a real chance to kind of make that leap to be a strong number 2 ahead of the Nationals, ahead of the Wizards.
Ted Starkey, Caps historian, joining us here, and I guess the fun of hockey is all here when we have Jeremy Roenick dressing up in white and all the craziness in Winnipeg, and Vegas is waiting down the line, and I think there will be some relative excitement and some joy around here, at least for a little while. As Trotz said, have a couple of beers, and then we get back at it, this weekend down in Tampa, but it's fun to watch all of this. I mean, it's fun for me to still watch Nashville get excited at this point, having spent so much time down there with Trotzy when he was trying to build that mustard thing, and I like it, I love it, I want some more of it. This is the time where when you put these games on, if you're just coming and flying in from the outside, I don't think you can put a Winnipeg game on in Winnipeg and not think it's the coolest thing you've ever seen, right?
Yep, and I mean, the great thing, too, about, you know, the 5 teams that are left, only one of them has won a Stanley Cup, and that was Tampa Bay back in 2004. You know, everyone else, you know, Vegas is new. Washington's never won, and you have, Nashville went to the finals last year, but they've never won. So, you know, it'd be really interesting to see because, you know, wherever the cup goes, it's going to be a new experience for a lot of fans, and that's a great way, you know, wherever the final is, you know, you saw what happened in Nashville last year, you know, it kind of got the mainstream fans, and, you know, that could happen in Washington, that could happen in Vegas, that already has happened in Winnipeg.
Well, anybody can be a hockey fan. I guess that's my thing. Like, it's not that hard to sign up this week and put the game on, and you watch it for 3 hours, and you tell me that you want to watch the Orioles, even on a good day, or that you want to watch the NBA plod along. And no disrespect to the NBA, but, you know, I watched them both on a split screen, you know, the other night in the sport, and I don't know how anybody's watching the basketball game when the puck keeps moving the way it does. But, you know, I'm sort of addicted to it, and I'm the sort of the apostle here, you know, for all of this stuff. And I don't mind being that guy. I've been that guy for 27 years here. But this isn't a time to say, well, you're the one that's been, pissing on the Caps all these years. Don't get on the bandwagon now. I think it's kind of a perfect time to say I like Barry Trotz, or I'm excited by Kuznetsov, or I think Tom Wilson's cute, or I like Nick Backstrom, or hey, let's go see if the big Russian kid can actually do this, or look at Hopi, look at that save, and look at the agility of these guys, and look at the speed. And I'm just convinced Brett Connolly's going to win the Cup. I don't know why. I'm going to keep tweeting that I think he's going to win. He's going to, in the end, he'll be the Kuznetsov of the big banana, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said, it's terrific theater. Like, last night, obviously the Capitals only had the lead for a couple minutes, but, you kind of could tell that it was like two fighters. You kind of tell the Penguins were kind of reeling. The Capitals were trying to just take advantage of their chances, and, they finally were able to win that last game, and, that's what it is. It's a lot of tight games. There's really nothing like playoff overtime. As much as I love baseball in mid-May is not, until you get to the All-Star break, it's not too exciting. The NBA, you kind of know is, your Final Four. It doesn't really get exciting until maybe the NBA Finals if it gets close. But there's really nothing that compares to the playoff hockey.
Ted Starkey is our guest. He is all things hockey and Caps historian. All right, man. Like this is your big chance to have the fearless prediction that you've not been able to make for 20 years since the last time this thing came around. Give me a pathway here for the Caps and where they are. And obviously all of this is shadowed by Backstrom and Burakovsky and injuries. And, clearly a lot of things went wrong for them, really, in the last series that we could sit here and lick our wounds after another Game 7 loss at home. That could have been the storyline on Thursday. It's not. But the storyline still is, Backstrom's going to need a right hand in order to do this, and They need to get healthier, and they're going to need all their guns for Tampa Bay here this week.
Right. I mean, I think the key for the Caps to get to the final is, obviously Holtby will have to outplay Vasilevsky. Obviously Holtby's been great since he came in relief for Grubauer in Game 3 of the Columbus series, but I think if Holtby is as good as he's been the last two rounds, it's going to make life very difficult for Tampa Bay. The other thing Tampa Bay will try to do is they kind of exploited Boston's defense last round, played with a lot of speed. So it's going to be interesting to see. The Caps play a responsible game like they did last night. They're going to make life really difficult for Tampa Bay.
By the way, I watched a lot of that series, and they kind of kicked Boston's ass, really.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the Marchand thing, dude, they should suspend him for life. He should get the death penalty, that you have to put a dog collar on a hockey player. I'm grossed out. I'm mortified, and I don't know how he could walk down the street. I mean, literally. I think it's one of the most shameless things I've seen in this sport. Let alone all the shenanigans that go on at the World Soccer level, and that'll be next month's bitch for me, Ted. Right? Once FIFA gets going and these guys start rolling around and grabbing their legs and biting each other's ears and kicking each other in the nuts and thinking the cameras don't see it and all that other nonsense. But the licking of a guy's face, like, dude, I so wanted them to lose after that, Yeah,
I mean, it reminded me a lot of, remember with Sean Avery a couple of years ago. They made the Avery rule because he would stand in front of Marty Brodeur and just wave the stick around. So, yeah, it's strange because, Marchand the last 2 years has really played a terrific game, but he's still doing some of the sideshow stuff. I mean, obviously, he did this twice in the playoffs. It's not the first time he did this. He did it in the Toronto series, too, and it's just, it's,
the Players Association shouldn't even take his side. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody should have. The Bruins shouldn't have his side. The Bruins should sit him down and make a fool of him because, I would not want Verona doing that. I mean, I wouldn't want my player doing that. And look, I never liked Dale Hunter's antics. I'm not down with all that. I've never liked that. And I think when it's encouraged from the inside, that's when it's a real problem, man.
Right. I mean, when you're telling players, you're going to get a 10-minute penalty because you're going to be licking somebody, that's a problem. But yeah, he's trying to play this gray area, but obviously,
that's an easy 10-minute unsportsmanlike conduct if you put the officials in front of this, and then that'll never happen again. Then the Bruins fans are mad at him, which they should be because and they all play hockey up there. That's not cool. You know what I mean? Like it's not cool, and I think that's the reason we make rules is so people don't do uncool stuff.
Exactly. I mean that's straight out of the East Coast Hockey League or junior hockey. There's no place for that. It's a tough game, but you can't try to knock an opponent off his pedestal by just trying to do that. And, it's just disgusting.
And for those who love baseball, this ain't the California Penal League, Vaughn. Ted Starkey is here. He is a Caps historian. He's out on the interweb at Ted Starkey. That's Starkey. And he will be living, dying, breathing, eating, sleeping, pooping, all things rock the red and all Caps as we get ready here. Hey, man, Tampa and the Caps, do you want to step out and make any fearless predictions here or anything? Or no, you're going to lay low here on that?
I mean, right now, I think if you look at just as a pure matchup, I mean, I think Tampa Bay has the edge. The interesting thing that's going to be about this series is kind of the intangibles, because obviously this is going to be a big boost for the Capitals. You don't know if it's going to be like when the Red Sox beat the Yankees in 2004. They knocked off their big rival. In 1998, they made it to the final without facing any of their big rivals. They didn't face Pittsburgh. They didn't face Philadelphia, and they didn't face the Rangers. This time around,
not rivals. At that point, those were demons, not rivals.
Right. Exactly. This is beating the guys that have knocked you out of the playoffs last 2 years, and they're going to get a lot of confidence off of it. That said, like we were saying, obviously Backstrom's health is going to be a big issue. Burakovsky's health is going to be a big issue. And even Ovechkin last night was shaking his hand after taking a shot. So I think. If you were going to bet, I probably would bet on the Lightning, but there's going to be a lot of intangibles. And if the Capitals can come out of that first 2 games in Tampa tied and keep the series even, they can't fall 0-2 or 1-3, they have a really good shot.
All right, man. Well, ice up, heat up, bolt up, do everything we need to do here to get ready for a lot of hockey, and only be 3 or 4 overtimes in this series, right? That's all.
Exactly.
Ted Starkey joining us here. Always great to visit with you, man. Take care of yourself and rest up. We'll visit again soon.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, man.
Ted Starkey from Newsday, Caps historian and insider, and has written books on the Caps. You can find him out at Ted Starkey. That's Starkey on the Twitter thing. I'm out on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram and all that stuff. All of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank, a relentless commitment to being the best at everything they do. Branches now throughout our community. I'll be telling you more about Howard Bank and all the things they're doing with our Be More Positive community series on Thursdays, as well as our friends at Cole Roofing. And Billy Cole's going to be coming on this week to discuss all things Lamar and Joe and Oriole Malaise and maybe even a little bit of Capitals. I'll get that out of Bill Cole as well. Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy. Don't let it goof on your roof. They help us help the community in our charity and community series. We've been featuring all sorts of cool stories. You can find all those out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault, along with all of our work here. You can listen live from anywhere in the world by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. It's all brought to you by buyatoyota.com. Want to give the King a ring here. There is a rumor that I will be appearing in the new King Discount Liquors video commercial that you'll see during Orioles games that you're no longer watching. Lottery beer, booze, and the best prices in Baltimore, and some pretty good commercials that I cameo in. I'm going to bring my sense of humor next week. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Pulaski Highway, it's almost a little warm for stout, but I like stout anytime. It's a hockey beer for me, so I will be going stout and maybe a little bit of Malbec with a steak to celebrate the Caps at King Discount Liquors. Nasty at WNST.net finds me 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. I do answer all my email. Sometimes it takes a day or two. The Nashville trip, the Charlotte trip, the Ray Lewis Canton trip, and the Caps and traveling and fun and all this stuff and the Preakness wearing me out a little bit, but I'm getting rested. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.